Welcome to this Monday edition of Not Just Crew today. No Simon today, he's busy working, but joining me shortly will be Paul Tizzard. This programme, of course, sponsored by Care Skills Pro. And if you are looking for a qualification within the care industry, please give them a shout. The information will be on the ticker at the bottom shortly after the titles. Today's episode is all about fear, but we're looking at fear just before interviews. Paul Tizzard, if you do want some interview tips, he's produced a fantastic PDF which you'll be able to find at notjustcrew.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the newsletter. Sign up there and we'll get those interview tips out to you. So if you have got any questions about fear, hopefully today's episode will answer them for you. Well, hello and welcome back. So today's episode is on fear. It's a very real thing, fear, and it's very strange. Some people deal with it quite well, others don't. So I'm going to bring in who I consider to be a absolute expert on this subject. Paul Tizzard, one of our Not Just Crew presenters, but also the founder of LoveFly. So I want to bring Paul in now. Hello, Paul.
Greetings.
Yeah, thank you. And how are you on this gorgeous Monday evening?
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Thank you for having me back.
No, it's great, and it's always a pleasure. I'm starting to notice on the posts that come into us and on other groups, people are starting to talk about interviews, but not necessarily the interview. It's literally the fear of interview. And I just want to know, why do you think people are so scared of interview? I know the answer sounds obvious, but why do you think people are so scared of interviews?
Well, I think it goes back to, there's a few things I'll say about this. So fear is a completely normal human thing. It's part of the brain survival mechanism. So it is normal. So the difference is that when we think about something like an interview, it's going to put us into a situation where we might overestimate what the worst thing that's going to happen is. And so we start to catastrophize, as they call it. What if this? What if that? And then we underestimate our ability to deal with it. And so we are out of sync with what the actual reality is. And if you think back to it as a sort of a primitive survival thing, not being accepted by your primitive group meant death. So at a very basic level, at some primitive level, we think, crikey, if I don't get through this, if I'm not accepted, if they don't like me, if I screw this up, etc., then the worst that's going to happen is at some level, I'm going to be totally ousted out of the group. And out of the group meant for our primitive ancestors that you would die. You needed to be accepted. And so we have to fit in. So it's all part of that. The difference now, I guess, is that we have the ability to use the rational parts of our brain and kind of think, well, what is the worst that's going to happen? So that's what's going on with interviews or public speaking, anything which involves some level of judgment, which of course an interview is. And even this experience for a lot of, I mean, the first time I did this, even though I do a lot of stuff like this presenting, I was still aware of having anticipatory anxiety, and also that something happened at a physiological level in terms of my mouth, my hearing, and all those things that we learn about in human factors. All of that happens in these situations as well. So what we have to remember is that we have been trained how to deal with fear, but we just forget to apply it because in this moment, it's something we're not used to doing.
Yeah, no, I believe so. And the other thing about fear, it's the way it affects different people. I mean, say a on-board environment, sometimes you can get really powerful business people on, and they are king or queen in the boardroom. Yet if they've got a slight fear of flying, they turn it into jelly pretty much. So I just wondered why somebody so powerful in one aspect become like a bowl of jelly in the other.
Well, in that particular scenario, what you're talking about is control, which is the number one reason why a lot of people have, well, it's not, yeah, it's probably in the top 3 in terms of fear of flying. So obviously that's something that I've been doing for a long time. So I know about that level of fear. That scenario, it's about control. So they're used to being in control, and suddenly they're not. It may even extend to, it's not just flying, it can often extend to things like being in tubes or even being a passenger in a car, because the route thing is about not being in control. And if they're not in control, then they're not safe. So that's what's going on with that particular individual is my guess. And there can obviously be other factors as well. Not understanding how things work can be a major deal, because the fear is then kind of supported by structures or theories or models which are incorrect. And so that's why a little bit of information can often be very helpful. And the crew are brilliant at that. So they'll say, no, the turbulence is normal, you're safe, come and talk to the captain, that sort of stuff really helps, because it kind of chips away at those uncertainties and those gaps in the knowledge.
So in the modern world, I mean, we're no longer being chased by sort of saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths. Is fear a good thing or a bad thing? Again, I know it sounds so obvious the answer, but do we need it in the 21st century?
Yes. So it still has its function. So it's the thing, your brain is on high alert all the time for threat. It has a permanent threat radar set in it. So we're always 24 hours a day scanning for danger all the time. So we have to have that. And that thing is what stops you stepping off the curb into the path of a car before you've even seen it, because your brain is scanning continuously. So yes, we do need it. The downside is when it's not managed. So and one way that people describe it's a bit like a smoke detector in your house. So if you burn the toast, smoke detector goes off, big alarm, you think, crikey, what's that? And then you realize, oh, it's just the smoke detector, it's just the toast. So you go and wave a tea towel over it, and it turns off again, and everything, you can reset. But what we don't do with ourselves is remember that we can reset. And so when we go into an interview situation, we not only get nervous when we're in there, but we're also psychologically rehearsing panicking before we go in. And so we practice how to be scared. So by the time we get in there, it's even worse. And so we stop listening. That's, as you know, one of the first things to go. We stop hearing so well, and because we start to focus on the threat in front of us. And then we don't hear the question, then we answer something, and then they helpfully ask the question again, and all we do is see their mouth move, because by then we're already in panic. So the trick is you've got to almost reverse engineer it and think, right, how do I want to get in there? Fear is there. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a part of our setup, So rehearsal is the big deal when it comes to these sort of things.
Yeah, and say you were chatting about the difference between, say, a controlled fear, like fear of flying, for example. How is that different from an interview fear where you've prepared for it, or you've prepared for it, then all of a sudden your mind goes completely blank? Why does that happen, even though you sort of prepare? What's the psychology behind that?
So in very broad terms, we talk about fight, flight, and freeze. But there's also this thing that animals can also play dead. So somewhere between all of those responses to a stimulus. So an interview is a threat situation, which is why I think that the airlines were great at doing interviews, because they would always make people feel relaxed because they want to give them their best. But not everyone is that well trained. So when you go in and someone's frowning at you, even if you don't quite notice it, it's a threat. And because the stakes are high, and if you haven't been working for a while, then you get into a state of desperation. And so you start overthinking everything. And so the trick is really to practice. If you're doing it by Zoom or whatever, then you can have little cards behind and they don't know you're looking at stuff. But if you go into the real world, you've got to rehearse doing that stuff, because what you're trying to do is prepare yourself when your brain is suboptimal. So you only feel relaxed going into interviews if you've done hundreds, because then you're desensitized. And so that's the trick. You can't turn that off. You've just got to practice. You've got to do these things to get it so it becomes automatic, like the military are trained. And the way we do our safety drills is that you're taught it so you can do it in the dark without even thinking about it, because in a normal situation you can stroll about and you say, oh, I would do this, I do that, etc., etc. But when it actually comes down to it, what you do is what's been drilled. So if you haven't drilled it, you won't do it. So you have to do that to be able to repeat. You practice high performance so that then you're prepared for when your brain sods off halfway through the interview.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, we talked about this in a program I did with you recently, where you were interviewing us, where we talked about mental rehearsal and how you can sort of get it into your brain and practice everything going perfectly. So you've got this experience. The only trouble with that, and I'd love to how you can sort of stop this spiral. You mentioned the more interviews you go for, the more comfortable you feel. What happens if your first couple were disastrous and you've got this horrible spiral going in your head? Oh, that was bad. That was bad. Is there a mechanism that people can use? And I'm going to ask you to keep this answer long. This is why I love live programs. My charger's over the other side of the room. It's about to run out of power. So I'm going to put you on full screen, and hopefully you want to give us a really long answer until I get back. Don't you love lives? There you go.
Okay, so all right. So I wasn't sure if I caught all the question there, but you've had loads of bad experiences and you then go back in again. So what you've actually done is you've practiced it going badly. So you've got a bunch of choices open to you. So I'm going to try and give very long answers just to help your battery situation, Trev. So the first thing is, according to whom? So a bad performance, it might not have been perceived that way because we actually don't really know. So even if it completely tanked, to them, it probably wasn't as bad as we think it is. So when we are really worried or concerned about something, we often think, oh my God, that was like the worst thing ever. So we're catastrophizing again. So we're building it up as a picture. So every time we talk about it in those terms, we are then practicing how to be crap again. Now, even if you weren't, you are now learning how to be. So the trick is, there's lots of things you can do, but some simple ideas are to talk it out with somebody and say, God, I really screwed that up. I'm so annoyed with myself. But get all that out, right? And then say, okay, underline, what can I learn from that experience? What can I do differently next time? Because now I know what it feels like. How can I prepare myself? Because no two interviews are the same. So there's no guarantee that you're going to do the same next time. And in fact, by taking some time to think about it and reflect on it, you're already rehearsing, right, if that happens again, I'll do this. Nearly always, I would say, a bad interview is down to lack of preparation. Because even if you get thrown a question, you get some nasty git that asks you that sort of like, the curveball, and you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? If you've prepared really, really well, over prepared to some degree, you know your stuff, you've prepared, you've worked it out, and you've practiced how to answer these sort of star type questions, so you've got it really, really fluid. Even if you get a question you think, oh God, I really don't know, what your perception of that answer is will not be the same as theirs. And actually they might go, that wasn't bad, because they're listening for evidence. They expect you to be a bit nervous. This is all normal. And one of the tips that is hard to do, but something you said the other day, Trevor, is that, I think, or it might have been Simon, I can't remember now, but it's, if you can think, well, I'm feeling these sort of feelings inside myself, but my brain labels them as what they are. So when I go to Thorpe Park and I go on one of those, those rides, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is scary, your brain labels it as a challenge. But if you do something which is scary and your brain labels it as not a challenge, it's actually this is like a near-death experience because it's an interview, then we've just changed the whole physiology of it. But the actual feelings are exactly the same.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, because we were actually talking about, have you changed the word fear to excitement, all of a sudden it puts your brain's getting different. Even though the feelings are the same, your brain is getting different orders that they're looking forward to something rather than absolutely fear it. But I mean, fear can be long depth. And in a moment, I'll be bringing in two well-known people to Not Just Crew. We've been working on a project. It's a project I've been really dying to tell the audience about for a long time. I mean, as you know, Not Just Crew's got some very, very talented people. And part of our sort of self-imposed mission is to bring talented people together to generate a new project. So the people I'm talking about are Ali Murphy and Kaylie Kay. Ali, as you know, is an award-winning voice actor. Kaylie is a fantastic writer. I think she's on about book 5 or book 6 at the moment.
Wow.
So our idea at Not Just Crew was to bring together to produce an audiobook of Kaylie's work. And it's something I'm really proud of. In fact, what I want to do, I even give a sneaky peek of the cover. This hopefully should be out in about a month or so, not far from our May the 4th birthday. But this is the project we've been working on, Paul. And I say I'm really proud of this. But what makes this even more intriguing? Yeah, oh no, I love it. I can't wait to see it. But what makes this even more intriguing is both Ali and Kaylie are very competent at what they do. That they've grown into their sort of new careers. But also, when we were discussing this project, we had a few meetings, both of them sort of said they were a bit nervous, a bit scared of doing it, and they had this sort of fear. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring them both in. I'll chat to Ali first, and then I'll speak to Kaylie. Hello, Ali.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us again. And Kaylie, great to see you as well. Both looking absolutely fantastic on this gorgeous Monday afternoon. Actually, it's you can tell summer's definitely joining us. Ali, you say you're also a Not Just Crew presenter, and Kaylie, you've appeared not only on our show but many other crew shows as well. But I just want to take you both back. We were discussing this project for quite a while now, and as it started, and it did go on quite quickly. We built things very quickly, but as it sort of come there to sort of recording, I both remember you saying, I feel a bit nervous about doing this. So Ali, I'm going to ask you first, talk us through what happened, because you're a voice actor, you do it all the time, but all of a sudden was it because you were doing some sort of book? Talk us through what was going through your head at the time.
I think I felt kind of vulnerable because it's something that means a lot to me, and also I knew that people would be listening and would have their own interpretation of the book and would be judging me, which I know it happens in my job anyway. That's fine, but I think it was different because it was something to do with the crew community, which I'm really passionate about. I love Kaylie's books. I really wanted to do it justice, and I suddenly thought, oh Lord, what if people don't like it? And I guess that's kind of what a lot of people's fears are around interviews, as well as what people are going to think of me. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. You're not necessarily in control of what's going to be asked of you, so you feel a bit, yeah.
So would you sort of say it's because you knew her work anyway, and you knew the sort of readers? Did that make a difference to the sort of professional contracts you normally do?
Yeah, certainly. But I felt like it was more of a personal thing rather than when I do work for other things. People don't know who I am. They don't care. I'm pretty sure no one cares anyway. But it's more of a people might know me, or they've heard of me now, or they're going to be like, oh, okay, let's see what she can do, rather than just listening to the book, which is what you should be doing. So I think I just kind of felt a little bit nervous about that, and just wanting to do it justice, just wanting to do a good job and make you guys proud, make myself proud.
Yeah. And Kaylie, I'll bring you in as well. You had similar nerves, but for a slightly different reason. Talk us through those.
But the same nerves. I think I felt all the same things that Ali did, but for people judging my writing, for them judging the book and not liking it. I always feel like that anyway. I've got to say, like, when I first started writing, it was just for crew to read. I didn't ever anticipate this, like thousands of people reading it. And I know there's a whole group of book critics out there, aren't there, that are going to pick up any book and not like it. So for it to be reaching outside of my closed inner circle and people judging it is, but I felt the same as Ali, just vulnerable and
And do you think those nerves will gather momentum near a sort of publication date? And if so, what are you expecting? What kind of response are you expecting? Will it be via Messenger or online? Do you check online sort of critics, both of you?
Right, I've already sorted this out I've already had a strong word with myself and just said, do you know what's happening? Get swept along with it, like you have done with all the other books. None of them have meant, so it's happening. Just get on with it. I do check my reviews and things, and when I get a bad one, it hurts for a day. But then I check reviews of really top sellers, and they all get bad reviews. And I'm not comparing myself to them. I know my books aren't as good as theirs. I write for a different reason for different people. But I'm hoping that the word I've already had with myself is enough.
And I say, what I'm going to ask you next will apply to you both. But Kaylie, while you're here, I'll speak to you first about that. Does a bad review equal 4 good reviews or something like that? Do you take when you get good reviews, is it just nice? But as soon as you get a bad review, do you carry that around with you?
Do you know, I've been fortunate so far, but I know it will change. None of my, I haven't really had any bad reviews. No one's written anything bad. But in the Amazon way where Alexa will just suddenly ask you to give a 5-star review out of 5. So it's more that I had a 2-star review, which is fine. I absolutely accept that, but they never wrote anything. So I think if it was words, it would hurt a lot more. And I think if I ever reached that stage, I'd just stop looking.
Listen, don't ever take any notes of what Simon Costello writes. He's a vicious side of him. And Ali, I'll put that same question to you.
I've had good and bad reviews before. I tend not to look for them anymore because I don't think it's good for your mental health. Because either way, you're either going to be like, "Oh, I'm ace," and stop trying, or you'll just be like, "Oh, I'm awful," and stop trying. So, I remember when I first started, my first ever job I did after leaving flying, and somebody just said, "Oh, I really hate the way she pronounces anything ending in ing." Because the way that I speak, where it kind of my accent, my weird Midlandsese accent would say ink at the end, so I'd have a K at the end of an ing. And now I really, really bother about that. And I'm always, when I'm recording, if I accidentally do ink, I'm like, oh, back again, record it, and so sometimes I guess constructive criticism is good. But a lot of the time, everybody's got an opinion. I'm sure my ex-boyfriend's got an opinion of me. It's not the same opinion as my husband. So people are going to love you. People are going to hate you. You can't be focused on what other people think. You have to be focused on doing the best that you can do, and that's literally all you can do, isn't it? Is be the best you, and let everyone else just get on with their stuff.
Yeah, and when you're both approaching your next jobs, is there still a sense of fear, or is it? Have you used fear as a way? It's going to happen. Do you just take it as an occupational hazard now and put it to one side, or is it a very real thing? Do you feel yourself getting very sort of nervous before publication date or submissions to publishers?
Mine's different. Mine's performance. If I'm before a performance, I'll get nervous. I try and do exactly what Paul was saying, just try and fix the connection in my head. Instead of nerves, I'm just motivated or excited, or I don't know, see this as a challenge or an opportunity, rather than the release date, because once it's done, it's done. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no point wasting any energy on that one. But yeah, certainly, and especially if I'm doing something that I'm not used to doing. I've got a big audition next week, and it's doing stuff that I'm not normally used to, and I'm already thinking about it, and it'll stop me sleeping tonight, and I'll be worrying about it for absolutely no reason. It's not going to help me in any way. But I think when you step out of your comfort zone, it's natural to feel a little bit of fear.
No, of course. And you both left the airline industry now. For those who sort of are going to start to attend interviews, hopefully now lockdown is finished, what one bit of advice would you give them? I know everyone's going to be individual, but is there something that's always there that you would get them to do?
I think my biggest bit of advice would be to take a little bit of time before you get there. Say you've driven there, or it's about before your Zoom interview or something. Give yourself 10 minutes before that, or more than that, really. Just half an hour. Always be early for things, because then you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And just breathe. And I know it sounds kind of airy-fairy, but it's the best thing for anxiety and for stress is to do some deep breaths, because on that last bit of the exhalation, that's when you truly just relax your whole body. If you can be a bit more relaxed, your mind will be more relaxed, and that way you can think a bit more straight, and you're not so faced with that fight or flight feeling.
Thanks. And Kaylie, I mean, to say you were recently, God, how long has this lockdown gone on for? Last year, I think I did your very last flight with you. I think.
Yeah.
Landed back from Lagos. So I mean, what month was that? That was March. I think, was it March? So your first interview after that, how was that?
I think it was, for me, it was fine, because I knew I was going for a job that I was kind of overqualified. I went into care, which I'd done before, so it was a bit different. I kind of knew I'd get that job. It was something I was qualified to do, and I knew I was going to get it. But my next job that I went for, which is the one I'm doing now, was this is going to sound really, I don't know where I got the confidence from that day, but I think it was a lot what you guys were saying and what was going on. And I just walked in and I pretty much told him I could do the job. And I did get the job over 100 people. And I
wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It was amazing. That day I was just in the right frame of mind, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, easy. I can, because it was all those personal skills that we've been talking about, or not just crew, running up to that, saying like all those transferable things. And yeah, I don't know how I'd be going for like professional. Yeah, this was as a PA to one person. But I don't know, in a different circumstance, maybe it'd be very different, but it depends.
Can I just say something, Kaylie? Because the interesting thing for me is you said just PA for one person, and that would be terrifying for a lot of people. And the other thing is that you said I was just in the right frame of mind, and I don't think that was any happy accident. You did a lot of really good positive self-talk. You were like, I know I can do this job. And so you're already priming your brain to. Yeah. So I think you've got to take credit for that.
Can do all of that, and yeah, I really can. But I think that was on the back of everything that had been going on. I don't think I could have done it 6 months before, but there'd been so much good stuff going out on not just Crew and all the platforms at the time, telling us that how great we were, and I kind of got off of that horse and into there and told them, so it worked. But I've done interviews before where I've been absolutely terrified, until the point where I've looked around, and that was my CSS interview, and realised I didn't need any of the calms and stuff in my bag, because everybody else in that room was just as terrified. But all the way up, I'd been in a right state, and then I looked at them and thought, actually, I'm not that bad. Everybody feels the same, don't they? So, yeah.
So Paul, would you say lack of preparation causes fear, just in the interviews scenario?
It doesn't. I think it's one of those things that's within your control, because once you get into the interview, it's not in your control, isn't it? So it's thinking logically about it. It's so easy to say this because I've stuffed up a few interviews, but it's one of those areas that you can think, what can I do that's within my control? I can research the company, I can look at the news, I can prepare my stories, fit it into a star format, I can practice that, I can ask myself the worst question. All of this was within my ability, and this gives me the slight bit of confidence. And the other thing is to have a sort of a healthy mindset, which I've also struggled with. I'm going to be honest with you, I've not always managed this, but at the end of the day, it's a two-way thing, isn't it? So you're going in to solve a problem. Their problem is they want a decent person to do work, to be efficient, great fun to work with, a good team fit. So that's their problem. They've got a problem that needs fixing. Your problem is you want to go and work somewhere. You want to get paid, obviously, but you want to be somewhere where they appreciate you, where you can use some of your skills and talents, and you can grow and learn and stuff. So you're also sussing them out. It's so easy to forget this when you're desperate. But I've always got, I don't know how this happens, but a bit like Kaylie said, the only jobs I've ever got is when I didn't really give a stuff. And I've thought, I wonder how I can can you buy that can you buy it in a bottle? Don't give us stuff spray. And then you go in, you kind of go, yeah, it'll be all right. And then they give you the bloody job, don't they? So it's, but when you really
look confident, don't you? You haven't got that fluff around you. You're just confident and calm and competent. Yeah,
very much. And what I say to a lot of people on their CV, when they've got an interview, that they already like you. They like what they've seen on paper. Nowadays, Zoom and computer entries, but they like what they've seen so far. So you're halfway there. Paul, you've had the pleasure of actually interviewing people as well.
Yes.
What do if you see somebody's particularly nervous, what's your mindset then? Do you think they're no good for this role, or do you understand? Do you give a bit of leeway for people who are nervous? Yeah.
So, provided you're a half decent interviewer, your job is to make them relax, because that the more relaxed they are, the more likely they'll give a good performance that you can then compare them to somebody else. So job number one for a good interview is to relax them. So you're not bothered by the nerves. In fact, that's a sign that they care, because if they're not nervous, that's more of a worry. So they should be a bit nervous. So that's a big tick. And then you just sort of help them. And once they start to relax a bit and they start to smile, you smile at them, it becomes reciprocal and stuff. So it's absolutely not a negative thing, because you just have to create the environment. But the downside is, if you're walking and you've got a nervous interviewer, then you've got to almost be twice as good as you would have been, because they won't necessarily ask you the questions you prepared for. They'll kind of go off a checklist. So why do you want the job? Tick. And that doesn't help you. So you're almost going to be prepared for the good interviewer, because that's going to be, you should enjoy the experience because you're telling and sharing stories. The crap interviewer is the one where I always a bit nervous of, because I think, oh God, now I'm going to have to work even harder, because they're going to do it on gut feel. You look like the right kind of person. How do you know? Didn't ask me anything.
I was going to say, Paul, because we're just coming to the half an hour now.
Is that polite? Shut up. I think it is.
Oh no, absolutely not. No, Paul, I could listen to you all day, my friend. Absolutely. I was going to say, what is there? People who are nervous, and I know people are going to be nervous, some more so than others. Where can they sort of look up information on how to sort of prepare for an interview, other than the brilliant PDF you did? I didn't mean so much the information about the fear. Is there any online material they can look at, YouTube videos that you know of?
Oh, there's tons. I mean, some of Heidi Cole's videos that she's done on Instagram are brilliant. I mean, I've watched a few of those and just thought that the composure that she puts across, and I'd give her a job any day of the week, because she just puts herself across really well. So if you want someone to model, go and look at some of her things. That's what I would do. And then the rest, Google it. She put a video out on Friday, and she's in the Not Just Crew group as well. So certainly take a look at that. Guys, thank you all so much for your time. I was going to say, it's a big thing happening at the moment. These are sort of opening up, and I'm seeing the posts. So one of the reasons we did this episode is because I'm seeing all the posts about people terrified about going for interviews there. Okay, I was going to say, just what's coming up. We've got Simon's show on Saturday. Something for your diary. Hopefully, sometime in the last 2 weeks of August, Not Just Crew are going to try and put an event together in London at this fantastic location. More information to follow there. But other than that, guys, I'll give you all the last words. Ali, last word from you? Or your last word?
I'd say take a deep breath, breathe, you can do this.
Excellent. Kaylie?
Yeah, just have the confidence. You are good enough, and that's the whole Not Just Crew ethos, isn't it? You're good enough, you've got it. Yeah, just be
absolutely.
Know it. Yeah.
And Paul?
Easy one. Never underestimate how awesome you are. You just take for granted so much the skills that you've got, those interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, which you've honed for years. People would just die to have half what you have.
Yeah, actually, I totally concur with all those. Okay, and thank you all so much, and we shall see you next week. Take care all. Bye.